push. Come on.
All right, what up, guys? First leg day back post Arnold. I'm gonna keep this intro as short as I can keep it because there's not gonna be huge changes in leg day. Honestly, I feel like our structure has been very, very good. Still prioritizing hamstrings, over quads, and honestly, don't even have to think about accessory stuff too much for Terrence as far as glutes, adductors. Lots of times people always ask me, I'll get questions like, "Oh, should guys do bridges and thrusters and shit?" And I'm like, well, if you want bigger glutes, then you should. Because obviously anytime we're doing a squat pattern, a lunge pattern, hack, leg press, hip extensions are working a lot. And the same as anything else for any other body part, any other thing in bodybuilding. Some people that's enough for development and some people it's not. So for us, it's enough to not have to do any direct adductor work, glute work. So we really keep hamstrings prioritized, meaning we start with my favorite hamstring variation, seated leg curls. We have another leg curl, lying leg curl variation in there as well too, train the hams to their full contractile range. And the only difference we're gonna start now is basically adding in a little bit more volume for quads, and we're gonna add one movement in as well too. So again, taking it nice and slow, we're at a baseline of basically one working set for 2 quad movements, and that was about it. So 2 basically working sets for quads, and then some parallel work as well. So the progression will be today from where we're at, 2 working sets on the hack as opposed to 1. I'm probably going to keep the leg extension still at 1 for now, although eventually we'll probably add another set there as well too. And then I just wanted to add some sort of lunge or split squat variation. Did you decide split squat or lunge?
Split squat.
All right, split squat. So we're going to do some sort of split squat. Probably in the Smith. Did you like that setup?
Yeah. As long as I'm not moving more than I have to. Yeah.
So that's the decision process on that one, honestly. And I like both. I mean, there's unique things about both that I enjoy. I think they both have a place. And honestly, it's splitting hairs from a development standpoint. So anyway, we're going to finish with some split squats in there as well too. And I just like incorporating those because while we'll probably have it maybe slightly more quad focused, I really just like them for overall leg development. With a movement like that, I'm not really trying to isolate something too much. So we'll take some quads, we'll take some glutes, adductors, whatever we get working as well too. And same thing, we'll start with that very low volume. So we'll probably literally just do 1 working set on that today, nothing nuts. So again, coming off of the show, luckily Terrence hasn't stopped training at all. So, he's going to probably still be around maybe 90% of where he was before. We'll just take a week or 2 to basically taper back up just from load standpoint and strength standpoint. And then hopefully have a couple weeks where the goal is really to start, trying pushing some PRs as quick as possible. Because that's really long-term in the off season. The goal is, all of his movements that we select is really to have, PR level strength on those things, because that will correlate to knowing that we're having some new tissue coming into a prep. And normally Terrence too, coming into a prep, I would like to coming off of an off season be at his all time.
Not like emaciated.
Yeah, exactly. Not like if anybody doesn't know from the last time, like we basically came off of not thinking he was going to do a show, and then kind of last minute deciding he was going to do a show, and then getting COVID in the middle there. So
surgery.
We're going to be way better off coming in this time. Yeah, I mean, even before that, like it literally hasn't had an off season in 2 years. So the goal really will be, I don't even want to say body weight, will be have a new amount of lean tissue coming into a prep, because Terrence tends to stay leaner and leaner every off season. So it's not like we're going to say, hey, you got to get to 210 or 220 or some arbitrary number that may or may not correlate to lean tissue. But really what I would look at a success will be coming into a prep, he's at PR level strength. And again, whatever his conditioning is, doesn't really matter, because if he's lean, great. If he's a little chubby, doesn't matter. I mean, obviously he has a full prep this time. It's not going to make a difference. He'll get where he needs to be stage ready. All we care about is having a new amount of lean tissue coming in. So looking for PR level strength coming into prep. And then normally he grows for a little bit into prep as well too. So we'll take some extra when that happens. And that's about it. There's one other thing I think I want to say, but it's gone now. It left. I'm wearing a nose strip. What is that on your nose? It is a nose strip. Why are you wearing it? I'm wearing it because it opens up my nostrils and helps me breathe better. Is there something magical or anabolic or androgenic about that? No. I live in Florida. We have allergies and seasonal stuff. Everything is in my lungs now trying to kill me. So sometimes when I want to breathe out of my nose better, I put a nose strip on my nose that opens up my nose better. This one came from Coach Eugene. I don't know if he still has them or if he still sells them. This doesn't look cooler than other nose strips, so you don't have to get this exact one. Just get a nose strip if you have a nose that's not as open as you would like it to be. I think that's all the questions about the nose strip that I'll get as well there too. So that's what that's on there for.
So what I got was, if you get the nose strip, will look like you.
Yeah, if you get the no strip, there's really some secrets that I'm not going to tell you about with this no strip. And if you get any other no strip, it's going to be it's going to be inferior. Yeah. So anyway, leg day. That's the order in case you didn't get it. Seated leg curl, squat pattern. I'll be doing some front squats. I might hop in some hacks as well too. Maybe do a little bit of both. And then do leg extensions, lying leg curl, finish with a split squat. And maybe we'll even put a prowler in there today too. Just keep that in there as well. So be a fun leg day overall. All right, guys, so typical warm-up here. I had some people ask, what do I do for prep? First and foremost, warm-up sets are still the best thing anyone should do. So if you only have time for one thing, do proper warm-up sets of the exercise you're about to do. But what I do is in between those warm-up sets, basically just address every joint that's going to be involved that day to some capacity. There's a lot more to it than that, but the simple version is, so I'm doing legs, so I'm gonna look at my feet, my ankles, my knees, my hips. I'm even gonna do some breathing stuff for my spine, my core. And I'm doing some things to either take those muscles through their full range of motion with intent and focus, do some isometrics at the end range, and then just to rehearse some stuff. So there's gonna be some breathing, some bracing, fully contracting TVA and stuff like that. But this next sequence is a typical thing that I would do before a leg day. And again, things can change depending on what feels tight or needs some work on any given day, but this is a pretty typical prep. Again, all this is supersetted in between my warm-up sets and my first exercise to save time. Guys, a really quick little tip here if you're doing any type of seated leg curl is check your range of motion first. Most machines will have the ability to adjust the end range. So basically when that knee is straight, how hip flexed are you going to be based on where the ankle pad is? And so most things you can crank it higher to get more hip flexion or down to get less hip flexion. So the test I say is make sure you're not just basically forcing yourself somewhere you can go. So when you have everything set up the way that you want, so this is where I'm gonna have it set up. I have my hips back, my back in the pad. I have my foot on the ankle thing. You'll see the test I'm gonna do. Trevor's gonna look over my ankle. See if you can actually actively raise your leg up off of the ankle pad. So without moving anything else, and try with both legs because it'll be different from leg to leg. So for me, you can see this leg, my left leg's a little bit more restricted. I can only get it up maybe an inch or so. If I put it just a little bit higher and I go into this position, I can get that leg off a little bit and I can barely get that leg off. You can see it kind of shakes, doesn't contract well there. So that's why I set this position just one short of that. I think it's a good idea. Yes, we want to fully lengthen the hams, but you don't also want to take yourself actively past where you can go, because I think that's where you're setting yourself up for potential risk of injury, or just taking yourself out of a place where other muscles besides even hamstrings can actively contract and produce a lot of output. So someone's gonna ask, why am I supersetting front squats and hack squats? And the answer is, because I like to party.
Why do you want to listen to the TV with the stereo on?
Because I like to party.
All right, guys, so a thought that a lot of people say, which I think is a great thought, is make your last reps look like your first reps. And the reality is, great thought process in my opinion, because the whole point is, regardless of reps in reserve, how close to failure, how short of failure, whatever, you have to train somewhat close to failure. Everyone agrees on it. And everyone knows that's harder, right? Anecdotally, if you've ever trained hard in your life, if you're doing a set of 8, regardless of where if it's going, the first rep is way easier than the 8th rep. But we know, anecdotally, we knew this 50 years ago. You heard Arnold reminiscing about it, waxing poetically, saying it's those last reps that separate, the champions from the amateurs. And to a huge degree, minus crazy outliers, I think that's 100% accurate. But I'll take it one step further. Again, as things continue to level up, and like people like to say, there's levels to this, whatever, that sounds cool, right? A good thought, I was thinking about this while Terrence was doing his working set and his back off sets. And something I think about to a certain degree is I'm really terrified of messing up that last rep or the last 2 rep, because every single thing that's not involving your brain tells you to fuck up those last reps, to bounce, to cheat, to just give up, especially when you have a good spotter. If you're not used to it, you get to that where you feel you're gonna have a sticking point, but you still keep pushing 100%, knowing your trainer's or your partner's gonna keep you grinding through. So my thought process going into those last reps is make them look better than the first reps. And especially on exercises where those the most challenging, like on squats. Someone's gonna cheat. No one cheats at the top of a squat. Everyone chops off the bottom or bounces out of the bottom. So literally my whole thought process as I'm getting into my working sets, same as everybody, I get excited, I get hyped up, I get ready to go. But I'm really not just chasing weight and numbers. Yes, I'm doing that as well too. But I'm chasing that last rep or those last 2 reps. I'm chasing specifically that last eccentric, that last bottom position. And again, getting to watch someone else do it. So Terrence obviously has been training for a long time. He knows all of those things I just said and makes it his own. Where again, we haven't done a ton of working. He did working sets last week on hacks, but we're getting really back close towards 100%. And I could see on his first 1 or 2 reps of his first working sets, things looked good. But as his reps went on, they looked better and better, to the point where his last rep or second to last rep actually looked better. Meaning some of it might be slower. Some of them might just be more perceivably on my end, more control out of the bottom. But I can tell obviously he knows how important those last reps are. And if anything, you're putting more thought into that. And the worst case scenario with that, right, is if you're thinking about those last reps and making those not just good, but better than the first reps, worst case scenario, if you mess up, then you're still having the reps just as good as the first reps, right? And best case scenario, if they're better, I'd argue you're getting more out of that. If you're making it more challenging, the numbers are the same, it's the same distance, the same weight, the same rep, but it's better control, slower eccentric, whatever it is, it's gonna be more stimulus. And again, if more stimulus is the thing you need, that's gonna make those sets and reps more effective. What's that little cheesy saying? If you shoot for the moon and miss, or you still hit the stars, shoot for the stars, you'll still hit the moon. Yeah, something like that. So that all sounded really cool right till that, but that's how I balance these things out. I don't want anybody to think I'm too cool for school. So anyway, next working sets. Get your mind right, make it your own, not just because I said stupid shit, but hopefully all that resonates, giving examples from Arnold, what smart people say, research shows, what Terrence does. Anyone at a high level makes their working sets hard and makes the last reps the hardest. So take that, do what you will with it, make it your own, but just realize what you're going to the gym for. Those last reps are the ones that are going to change your physique, so make the most out of them. All right, guys, so I made a somewhat joke earlier about why I like to superset front squats and hack squats. That's a somewhat joke, but it's also accurate. Some of the real reason why I started doing front squats over hacks for lit, I can see this is coming off. See this? This is how you know workout's almost over, sweating off the nose strip, bad times. But I started to switch from hack squats to front squats for a little bit, just because I was dealing with a little like patella tendonitis, a little bit of a deal. And again, I actually did it kind of acutely. I did it one time, not really thinking, on a pendulum a while back, and just kind of sunk in, relaxed some muscles, and tendon took the brunt of it. So taking a really long time to heal. And honestly, I'm the same as everybody else. Even when there's stuff I know I should do sometimes, I'm lazy. So my first approach is always just change the movement that injured it, lower the stimulus a little bit, and see if it kind of resolves itself. If not, then I might incorporate some, isometrics, might incorporate some kind of controlled eccentrics at times, might include some BFR, stuff like that. But it's getting back to a pretty good spot. But one of the main reasons I switched from hacks to front squats is hacks are basically all knees. Yes, because it's a true closed chain exercise. Your hip musculature is still working for sure. But basically, as you're descending, all of the descent comes from knees going forward. Hips don't go back. They just basically stay on the pad. And again, that's relative to your foot position. So again, if you drew a line straight down on the sled, obviously, and where your feet are, the distance between your hips and your feet never change, whereas the knees go forward the whole time, and that line of force isn't always straight up and down, but that's a different story. So anyway, long story short, hacks are more quads and in turn more knees, even than front squats, because in a front squat, the hips go back a little bit, even though there's gonna be always a more open hip on that compared to a back squat, despite what some people will tell you. So again, that's the main reason I switched to them. Overall, I've always been a good quad movement for me. And again, I get a little bit more hips involved, and I've allowed my knee to heal up a little bit. And now I've started to do hacks again because there's different types of hard. So this is where I kind of wasn't joking. I mean, I think a big problem now with training in general is people don't have enough fun. I know that sounds silly because I'm supposed to be like the smart guy, the nerd guy, but I tell everybody I had fun training first. And I tell everybody asks me getting into bodybuilding, getting into training, what should I be thinking about? What should I do? What would you tell somebody getting into bodybuilding or training? Is enjoy it, man. Enjoy all the bodybuilding stuff. And I've always enjoyed, first and foremost, training. I fell in love with training the first 2 or 3 years. I tell everybody, I've told this a couple of times, there was a point in time when I was in high school where I was training 3 times a day. I would train during school, I would train after school, and I'd go to a separate gym membership that I paid for with my part-time job right after my part-time job late at night. So training 3 times a day. Granted, I didn't grow a whole lot because I was basically eating whatever my mom gave me at that point in time, like sandwiches and pretzels, whatever 16-year-olds eat. I don't know. I didn't pay attention to it at all. I knew I just liked working out. And then obviously, as I also found a love for actually wanting to have muscles, then later in life, I discovered things like eating properly and recovery. But I say all that for training, something that you enjoy, something that's fun. Training with other people and doing stuff that's fun is probably a more important variable than any of the X's and O's that people go all in on the internet now. That's the internet. I can tell everybody has no idea what they're talking about producing results long term, whether it's an individual or an educator, where they just get in fights and arguments and act like a bunch of babies over the stupidest shit. The stupidest shit. I mean, they're literally arguing variables of like to failure or 2 reps in reserve. Like, I can't think of something less important in the grander scheme of things. And they don't talk about having fun when you're training, probably because they've never had fun when they're training. I don't know, I could be wrong. So have fun, man, because honestly, I like front squats. That's one of the reasons I do them. And again, liking an exercise is a good reason to do it. I might take time explaining everything around an exercise so people can understand it. But sometimes when people say, if I say, hey, skull crushers probably aren't a great exercise for a bigger guy if your elbows are like this, if you're aware of that, but you still like doing them, and your reason you do them is you like doing them, that's a good reason to do them. There's no sarcasm there. That's not a joke. That is a solid reason. Now, again, if you have a client that says their elbows are screwed and they look like this and they say it hurts when they do skull crushers, well, you liking them isn't a good reason for your client to do them, but that's a different story. So I do front squats because I like them. They actually help with my knee a little bit. But I wanted to start doing hacks again because I miss doing working sets of hacks with Terrence and anybody else that we have come and train, because it's a different type of horrible, right? If you've done front squats, they kind of just feel like your body's gonna break the whole time, right? Anyone that's done them heavy, like you're barely just holding shit together. I feel like my spine's gonna break, all that intra-abdominal pressure, I'm just gonna fucking explode. And of course, my legs and quads, everything feels like you're gonna break. So I have to use 100% focus just to make sure I don't snap in half and die. Whereas the beauty of a hack is it's a different type of painful, in some ways worse, because you don't have to worry as much about not breaking and dying, because you can always just put it at the bottom and do the crawl of shame out if you fail. But it's just some of the systemically, locally most horrible pain to actually do working sets on the hack, true working sets, where just build up the byproduct, lactic acid, all that shit is horrible, but also just there's so much stuff working. You know, you get lightheaded when you come out, you feel like you're gonna throw up, sometimes you do throw up. So anyway, the main reason I'm supersetting them is I wanna do front squats, because I think they're manly, whatever that means, and they're fun for me, and I wanna start doing some working sets of hacks, because I want to challenge myself that way as well too. I want that different type of pain. And Terrence is going to be doing them all off season, so I want to be able to do them with him. So anyway, that's a long rant from my shit, but hopefully you can take away some stuff there where, again, where everyone goes, again, all in, everything's nerded to the nth degree online now, which is great. Information isn't bad, but learn to like love shit first. I love stuff first before I thought about anything. And obviously as the other people that love stuff the same amount that I did, that grew faster than me and looked better than me, so okay, maybe I have to think just to fine tune my ways. So I always joke it's easier to be a meathead that loves training first and slowly, use some intelligence, gain some new information to improve or fine tune your training. It's harder to go the other way. Some people just start day one now with social media at their fingertips, where they like to nerd, they like to argue, they like to be on their teams, they like to win arguments with strangers, and they don't actually enjoy or love training. So I don't know where they're gonna be at 5 years from now, the people with private profiles with no pictures that are commenting on everybody, but they're probably not going to be in the gym looking awesome, kicking ass. They maybe will still be in the comment section. So loving your training, enjoying your training is a very, very good reason for anything you do, from split to exercise selection, proximity to failure, whatever. Again, for you, that's a perfectly good reason to do anything. All right, guys, I would wait a little bit longer to wrap this up, but I like everyone on the internet telling me why I'm out of breath while they're sitting on a couch covered with Cheetos. It's definitely not because I just finished leg day. It's just because I'm a meathead that's all geared out and out of breath. Anyway, for everyone else, that's leg day. Not a whole lot else to wrap up here. We did skip from what I said in the beginning. We didn't do any split squat or lunge variation. And the reality of that is knowing ahead of time, Terrence's schedule post-show is always a little bit busy. Mine's always a little bit busy just post having 3 kids. So today we knew we were basically kind of just pushing it to get the whole workout in. So I wanted to prioritize the movements that we're definitely keeping in and try and progress on them for a while. And so overall, very good session for him being just 2 weeks post-show, not even 2 weeks post-show, progressing right back up to, almost 90% output within a week or two. Hopefully we got PR level strength and then pushing into new territory. So again, we all did one working set we did 2 working sets each of seated leg curls. I did 1 working set on front squats. Then all of us did 2 working sets on hacks, 2 working sets on lying leg curls, 1 working set on leg extensions. Terrence had to take off. I also think it was to avoid the prowler. If you're watching this, Terrence, I'm just kidding. But so then we did 2 sets of the prowler as well too. And again, on paper, I think that's a very complete lower body workout for almost anybody. I want the little extra stimulus in the future moving forward, doing some sort of split squat or walking lunge variation. So if you guys are watching this at home, you want to do the same workout and get a head start on us, you can add in some sort of split squat or a lunge variation. I tend to like walking lunges more for nostalgia. It's just fun carrying heavy shit on your back. Split squats are hard to beat on paper, especially in a Smith for output. And Terrence likes them because he always picks whichever has you moving less, which is not a joke. But Terrence gets a pick since they don't really make that big of a difference. And that was a session, good session today. Had Luke in town training today as well too. So if you're like, who's that guy? That's Luke, classic physique pro, right? Yeah. And getting ready for pro debut at some point coming up.
Next year, yeah.
Yeah, coming up sometime this next year. So coming in town to get a good part for a good leg day where it's still like in the middle of like a good session, also not quite thrown in the deep end. Yeah, some people come in right when we're at our peak. We pretend we're not at our peak and just have someone puke on the floor. But so it's a really good, appropriate session for someone to hop into and still be a good session. So anyway, guys, that's the usual leg day. We'll keep you guys updated as the season goes along. Once we probably film it again when we've got everything in there, the volume of blue. Where will I go from here? We'll probably keep hack squats the same for a while. Like I said, next workout, the only change will probably be add in one working set of split squats. Then over the next couple weeks, I'll probably add a set to seated leg curls, add a set to leg extensions, and then add a set to split squats. And lots of times that might be baseline volume. That's a pretty good amount of volume for myself and Terrence. And again, we know it doesn't take much for Terrence to maintain his legs, and it doesn't take much more for them to grow. So we kind of got the green light to grow everything a little bit more. But at the same time, if we smash them full force into the ground, might take away from the recovery from the rest of his body a little bit, and then also get his legs too big again, which we don't want to have happen. So there's always a little bit of a fine balance there. So that's it. Leg day, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Same as always. I appreciate you all doing the YouTube thing. Like, subscribe, share, tell your mom her legs suck, and help her out. Anyway, no, I'm just kidding. Your mom's great. Dorothy Mantooth is a saint. But anyway, guys, until the next time, later.